Hey everyone, Josh here from JDA Films Productions. 2 years ago, I did 2 review videos on my top 10 best and worst Stephen King adaptations. And in both of those videos, I added in one of my all-time favourite King stories, Salem's Lot. In the top 10 best, I added the original 1979 film, and in the worst, I added in the 2004 remake. At the end of the top 10 worst, I explained on how much I was looking forward to seeing the upcoming remake, which came out on October last year via streaming. On the day of release, I finally had the chance to see it, and it was atrocious! Like so many others, I have been waiting for 2 years for this adaptation, and this is the end result we all get? Thanks a bunch, Hollywood. Muchly appreciated. Set in 1975, like the novel, writer Ben Mears comes back to his childhood hometown, Salem's Lot, Maine. At the same time, 2 antique dealers move into the town to open an antique shop. As time goes by, the town's residents die and become vampires. Ben and his close friends have to fight for survival. That doesn't sound so hard to adapt, right? I mean, with modern day technology, you'd expect it to be a pretty good end result, right? Well, that will teach me for having such high expectations. I did read that this went through developmental hell, with constant studio interferences, script changes, reshoots, and setbacks on release dates. To begin with, it was meant to have a huge cinematic release, until it was decided that it was going to be released via streaming. And when watching the film, I could easily tell how much the studio mucked this up. It literally starts off with vampiric action, leaving absolutely no room for story and tension build-up. There's even scenes where you can tell that chunks of the film have been cut, making the story structure very incoherent. With this major error, none of the characters have any depth. I didn't care for any of them. This really wound me up. In Stephen King's stories, there is lots of time to know the characters before the horror starts. Look, I know books are different from movies in that aspect, but still, at least give us some substance to them. Not only is there zero depth, there's no acting skills from any of the cast. Their ranges go from mediocre to awful. Honestly, the actor of Mark Petrie had the emotional range of a spoon. I mean, I know he's a child actor and all, but come on, even Taylor Lautner did a better job than him in Shark Boy and Lava Girl. He's an absolutely incredible actor, and I praise absolutely none of his roles. Anyway, as I digress, not only is the acting bad, so is the writing. Both of these failures combined together make this incredible, purely terrifying story come across as an outrageously cheesy B-movie. Don't get me wrong, I like cheesy B-movies. Like these. These are pure class. But there is a time and a place for them, and this story should not be under that umbrella. And this embarrassingly bad scene helps this cause. In the middle of the night, Mark Petrie is awakened by his recently deceased friend, Danny Glick, who is floating outside his bedroom window. As we can see, Danny is now a vampire, and he's alluring Mark, putting him in a trance, trying to persuade him to open the window and invite him in, because he has a really unquenchable thirst for blood. The persuasion works, and Mark lets Danny float in through the open window to be given a hickey. Mark then comes out of his trance, conveniently, and notices that one of his prop crucifixes from one of his horror models is glowing like a light bulb. This element does happen in the book, but the glow is not insanely bright. He presses the cross against Danny's face, he screams like a little girl, and flies out of the window, whilst turning into mist at the same time. Now, usually, after a traumatic event like this, you'd be holding the cross to you, close and lock the windows, and turn on all the lights and not sleep a wink. But no! Mark runs to the window and locks it, at least that's something. Does he cry? no, with his extremely wooden and emotionless acting, he all of a sudden plucks up the courage of an action hero and says the words, "I'll set you free, Danny. You have my word." Yep, you heard it, peeps. He said those very words. And no, he does not say that in the book, because Stephen King's brain is fully operational. And not only that, there are also scenes where there is humour involved, but it feels completely out of place and just feels awkward. For example, like this. Ben and Dr. Cody are seeking refuge in a church against the vampires. As you can see, Ben's had a pretty eventful night. He asks Dr. Cody where their other teammates are, and their whereabouts are unknown. Ben also asks about the whereabouts of the town sheriff, Parkins Gillespie. Earlier on in the film, Cody tried to persuade Parkins to stay and help fight the vampires, but he decided to run away, admitting defeat like a pansy. As soon as Ben finishes asking the question, Parkins' corpse all of a sudden smashes through a church window. It was as if the vampires were earwigging the conversation and thought, "Here, why not? This'll be a laugh." Cody then decides to throw in a joke that would originally work for a comedy film, saying, "He wasn't much help." I'd usually laugh at that, but with a story like this, the joke just falls flat. In the book, there is absolutely no awkward humour in it whatsoever. Yes, there are some light-hearted moments, and there are also some beautiful moments, especially with the love story of the main character, Ben Mears, and his girlfriend, Susan Norton. Other than that, this is a story of pure atmospheric dread and terror. I had so much faith in Gary Doberman, who wrote and directed this. I was really hoping that he would really succeed in bringing that very aspect of pure and atmospheric dread onto the big screen. He did an amazing job with being part of the writing crew of the incredible King adaptation, It. I even read that he wanted to make vampires scary again. Well, sorry pal. 2 other writer-directors made that promise and kept to their words with these 2 masterpieces, especially Nosferatu. Okay, now I don't blame Gary Doberman completely. It wasn't all of his fault. Like I stated earlier on, this film had humongous amounts of studio interferences. His original script was 3.5 hours long, but the studio demanded that they wanted a version that was 113 minutes. So he was forced to cut huge segments out to fit their needs. Amongst all the negativity, there were 2 small positive elements that did work. One of them was that Susan Norton was involved in more of the vampiric action, which was pretty cool, and I have to admit, the vampires did look pretty decent, including the head vampire, Kurt Barlow. Sadly, none of that could save this absolute mess of a film. As a ginormous fan of the book and the original, I felt so insulted. I even feel that the word insulted is too small of a word. I was infuriated after watching it. So please, please, all of you, do me a favour and just stick to the book and the original and avoid this festering turd. Anyway, I'm afraid that's all from me. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Take care, and I shall see you all again very soon. Two review videos on my top 10 best and worst Stephen King adaptations. I need to take a breath. Oh god, this paragraph's huge. Brace yourself. 2 years ago, I did... Don't want me to sound like a black metal singer now, do I? At the end of the top 10 worst. Brace Satan. Script and clapperboard. Multitasking. He's an amazing... He's great. I'm gonna try that again.